Om
Om
Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Para Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Well, howdy, welcome.
Hello.
Great to see you here.
Everyone.
And also hello to those who are watching this later on the YouTubes, which we will be uploading hopefully by Thursday. Yeah, so just quickly some housekeeping and updates. We have had the weekend retreat. Oh, it is the Judy.
Yes.
And there is a Jack there too. Okay, well, awesome. That's great. So we had the weekend retreat, our first weekend retreat last weekend, which was a real joy to host.
Amazing experience for me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, very different vibe than the last few soul retreats. I guess over the last little bit of time, the soul retreat's been expanding and taking 4 nights and has been going deeper and deeper and deeper. And so this was nice to take a step back and still connect with really awesome people and do some great stuff, but just with a lot less formal sharing and more space. And yeah, we had some really positive engagements. Someone's looking at joining the Ashram community after that, which is really good, and wants to come back already with a partner and stuff. So I guess it's working in that regard to give people that accessible start to what we're doing, get to know Rajni and I, get to know the ashram and the facilities and the space and the community. I mean, she connected well with Serena too. So, I think that we'll be sustaining that. We did throw it out there a little bit last minute. So the next weekend retreat, 27th of January, 27 to 29 of January. But for those members watching, especially on the replay, we still have good availability for the next couple of retreats, 14th through the 18th and the 28th through the 1st for Guru Karya and anyone who wants to volunteer. Judy, Sherelle, there's heaps of retreats and there is always opportunity to come away. So whenever the time feels right, but we've got a dishwasher now, so we're moving up in the world. All right, well, on to tonight. Yeah, we were going to talk about the notion of commitment and investment into a practice and how this might it might be a nice analogy in some regards and also a little bit unhelpful in other regards. The first thing that comes to mind is that typically an investment is done in order to get something out of it. And that sense of expectation that I'm meditating, therefore I should have an alleviation of my problems, it kind of blocks what the meditation is about. But by the same token, unless there is a sense of commitment to the practice, sustained I'm in, this is a part of what I do, it very easily falls by the wayside. So I guess, I've been exploring how maybe, in particular, because we've been doing a lot of communicating about the practice to people, and people are invested in general in the world with what they're doing. They want to see a tangible outcome. They want answers. They want clinical proof. And yet that desire to extract something from the practice can really block what is a softer way of approaching it, which is looking at it as the offering, as we've shared in the past. And so the issue is that when we impart it or share it with people and we say it's a donation of your time, that you're actually letting go of a desire for those 30 minutes, it can make people's commitment to that practice go, well, I don't have so much time to donate this week, so I'm not going to donate. I'm not going to donate my 30 minutes today because it should be, kind of coming from a sense of excess. If I find the time one day, then maybe I'll begin to give it. I noticed that in my own practice. It's like, oh, wow, I've just got too much on. And it actually takes quite a lot of commitment to persist, even when the returns on that investment of time might not necessarily be apparent, or there can be a feeling of stagnation or maybe plateauing. And yeah, so I don't know. Anything come up for you?
Well, I just remember when I started back in 2007. I think I knew what I needed from it. And now when I look back, and as you were talking, I'm like, it's not about what I thought I needed, it's about what I really needed. And it took the time it took to get to a certain state where I saw the change. But the change happened straight at the beginning. It was just a slow burn. I think you mentioned it a few times. My commitment to the practice was not tied into some expectation. I think it just made me feel good. I was in a difficult relationship and my life got affected heavily. And daily, that was a way I would overcome everything. That was a way I would keep my head,
Well, yeah, so it's like it's a commitment to a part of yourself.
Exactly.
More than a commitment as in like, I better do the meditation or else I'm going to be letting someone else down.
Yeah.
It's like nobody is going to be let down by you doing or not doing any practice. But that inner, what we refer to as the soul, like it's a sustained commitment to that part of oneself. And that attention, it feels that it just breeds it breeds growth, and that seed maybe of the consciousness or of the knowledge that one is predominantly a soul rather than I am the body or I am the batshit crazy mind. Like when that when you invest or when you commit to paying attention to the ephemeral, hard to grasp, but kind of easier to feel aspect of self called the soul, like that begins to grow larger than the feelings associated with bodily based consciousness, which might be that I'm tired and old and broken and, oh, why did I spend so much time in the army lifting heavy weights and carrying packs, or the mind, excessive identification with the mind might be, rumination of work-related thoughts well after the day is done and dusted, or like being caught into the right channel and being future oriented, always thinking ahead by work, or caught up on bad decisions in the past. But it's not that those thoughts about the work, past or present or future, are actually the problem. It's the identification with the self, like I am this tension at work, that creates the imbalance. And so when one begins to invest in the soul, there's a separate sense of I-ness. I still do have a sense of I that is the soul, but it's like some higher level capital I, rather than just like I'm really angry or I'm really in pain. And that that I-ness seems, for me, and I do lots of different things, and we talk about meditation all day, and my whole life is consumed by this stuff here at the ashram. But it's in the practice of the meditation and the hatha yoga that I dust off all of the other stuff, body, business, mind, and restore a connection to that ineffable part of myself. And that's where it's akin to a communion with God or something beyond, the higher self. Like, it really is a special part of the day. It's not just like a caretaker routine or something like that. I'm having a shower and then I'm going to floss my teeth. It's like, no, this is really, whoa, actually, let me take stock here. And so as the commitment over the years has built, the power that inner sense of larger capital I has to quickly balance me when I need it is there, which, you know, like that to me indicates that if a little bit of meditation now has a way more powerful effect than it did, say, 5 or 6 years ago, what that indicates to me is that this is actually a compounding investment, as in that when you put the money in the bank, that there is some interest on it that grows, and it seems to get more with more sustained investment over time. Now, that growth of that, that's at odds with the mindset going into the practice. If you go into the practice fixated upon the investment return, you actually block the support that you get from it. It's the wanting and the desires for the outcome that will really stop it. You know, it's kind of cruel in some regards that it rewards surrender, it rewards a light grip, but you still, like, it rewards persistence and continuity. Definitely. Like I feel like it's nothing quite scratches the itch in terms of touching back into that place. And so, you know, when we sit here and we go, well, what's our role in, you know, there's no guided meditation per se. It's like we're not able to tell people much more than what we give them in session 1. I'm a holy soul, I'm a pure soul. Maybe you go on to learn some of the Sanskrit mantra, but it's like punchline is given away at the start. So, you know, as people whose lives are dedicated towards supporting people on this journey, we ask ourselves, like, well, what is it that we actually do? And, you know, more and more we're realizing that what it is that we offer is inspiration and motivation to persist with something very, very, very basic. And it seems a little bit absurd that we need motivation, that humans need motivation for this, but I certainly benefit from motivation. In fact, I benefit from the motivation of sharing about it, because when I share about it, I have to think about it too. And so I'd rather be sharing and talking about this than something inane or pulling us in a direction of more suffering. So, I guess what is that space of commitment, and how do you see your role, Rajni, as somebody who inspires that?
One thing that I heard many times is, oh, it's about time. I'm not sure I can find the time because I'm so busy, because every day I'm not even sure every week. And the example of that lady who said that, I just watch her nails and it nicely done, you know, from a beauty parlor. And I said, you've got time for this. Why? Because that was a choice of yours to make sure, no matter what your business is, but you need to appear a certain way. So you have time to do it. You want to appear a certain way. Here, it's exactly the same. Commitment is choosing to do it, is accepting from this hour to this hour, this is my time. It's a choice. It's actually a question of choice. It's not only violence to myself. I sleep very less these days with baby, and during the day there's so much going on, and each time I sit there is something happening, and I can't really meditate as I used to in the hour like very early morning or in the afternoon or early evening. I chose the night, and I still make it happen. Why? It's because it makes me feel good. So I chose to, and in these years of meditation, I saw the change. Now I look back and I'm like, if anyone needs an example, I saw the change in terms of like all domain of my life have been touched, but not in the way I thought. And so this is what I like to warn people about. We think it should be a certain way, and we think we know what we need. We don't actually know. And that's why it can be very difficult to continue doing it if you don't see the change you wanted. So if I wanted someone to change, I'm going to meditate and be more balanced, and the person will change. And it's not this. As I got more and more balanced, there was a mismatch, and the person left because there was a mismatch. So I didn't need to do so much really, except surrendering. And that was the most difficult thing for me, because I thought I knew what was ahead and what I needed.
Well, and it's interesting because if you turn yourself into the person that can make 10, 20, 30 minutes of dedicated time for no other purpose than your soul, whatever you believe that or feel that to be, if you turn yourself into the person that can consistently do that, what are the other things in your life that suddenly free up for you? What are the things that were tightly held that then soften and loosen, and where do you then find yourself as somebody who is capable of surrendering or one, prioritizing your own inner state? I mean, the mental benefits of the practice are pretty noticeable. If you persist with it over some months, you do see a lessening of the thought stream, and you do notice ups and downs. But the more intangible quality is how deeply rewired the mind becomes. It's like it for me, what I'm noticing is that the reactivity is far, far, far less, and the ability to hold a contextual view, like a zoomed out Google Maps large scale view of myself in situations, is ever present outside of the meditation. And so that extrication of soul or witness consciousness, like I saw, this morning, it's like Rajni and Rishan, it's like head to head in the kitchen. And it's like maybe once upon a time I would have gone in and I heard stuff and there was some frustrating things, and it's like after the last couple of altercations, I use the word loosely, but 16-year-old son and the last few years separated. But when I've noticed that, like in the past, I might have reverted into a more divisive way of being and managing conflict, I saw actually a great opportunity to kind of bring two forces who were antagonizing each other together and help them see eye to eye. And I feel like we kind of brokered peace. And I'm like, wow, that I saw arising initially my suspicion that a pattern was being repeated, and I was about to jump on it in an aggressive manner and say, look, we told you before, don't do this. And I'm like, okay, he's clearly unaware, because he's not a dumb kid. He's unaware of his pattern. And if I give a harsh response, it's only going to close him down. And so, you know, we were able to, or I was able to play a role where maybe once I would have had a stronger opinion. I mean, you know, I'm fortunate that my dad is actually here, and I could say that maybe through my 20s there weren't necessarily the most tolerant conversations around the Sunday night family dinner table. And you know, one could say that this is just natural maturation, but I look at potentially where some of my friends or other people and peers in my group who are caught by different issues and views, that I don't think that it's just a consequence. I'd prefer to put credit where I believe credit is due, and that is the establishment of increasing metacognitive awareness. So meta is just beyond, you are able to see your thought process, and you're able to see your own hypocrisy, which is difficult to look at sometimes. And actually is possibly one of the core reasons why people choose not to commit to a practice, is not because of a lack of positive experience with the practice, is because the practice itself surfaces your challenging stuff, and it's easier to give the practice the flick than to stay and keep coming back. And if you turn yourself, as I said earlier, into the thing that stays, i.e. you keep the practice and you let your own hypocrisy go, then maybe that's called like personal growth, or, you know, coming into alignment with the soul.
And I'm very fond of saying this practice work outside the 30 minutes of meditation. Truly, it's no pretty colors. It might not be vision. It's not only the feeling of bliss during the 30 minutes, but outside, you will start witnessing the change within. And here in that example, like, you could have come back with a bigger reaction, and you were able to perceive what was happening, and you had that smile on your face. And, you know, you spoke. It was spot on what you said. And I was caught. It's me and my younger self. So I'm like, oh, okay, I know what. And there's a moment where I smile inside, and I'm like, yeah, David perceived it right, and I'm just going to follow what you're saying. And
I think that look, you know, like that is, again, that is the commitment to soul consciousness. Does not just mean I'm going to do the 30 minutes of meditation every day. It means, like, when we share the fire ceremony, you know, we break down the spiritual practice into 4 steps. And the first one is bringing oneself into the proximity of the soul, i.e. go and do the meditation. The next step is listening to it. And it's like, so you spend 30 minutes a day cultivating this part of you that feels like, what the hell am I doing? And then it starts talking, and you start knowing, not through a voice, but through an inner sense of knowing of what is right in one circumstance. And you're like, damn, I can't shut that thing up anymore. The feeling has come alive. And that is, you know, that was maybe one of the unintended kind of gotcha things that, like, I thought, oh, meditation, great. Yeah. Get rid of my dodgy mind and my persistent thoughts and intrusive thoughts and just busyness. I want peace. And it's like, yeah, okay. The mind is still kind of doing what it's doing, but what's emerged from within is that inner sense of knowing in a circumstance. You know, and you can't pretend not to hear that. And it might be, you know, as trivial as last week having a discussion saying no eating in front of screens, and then me taking 3 pieces of toast this morning to the computer, and I'm like, I hear this and I'm still going to do it, and I ate it. So, like, you know, you know, we're all works in progress, but like, I can't pretend like I didn't hear that little micro voice in that moment. Whereas maybe prior to articulating that we wanted to get away from eating in front of screens, as small or silly as that sounds, prior to articulating that as a family and as a couple and as an individual, I wouldn't have even registered that I was eating in front of a screen. So I set myself up for the test, and today I failed. But tomorrow, back on the horse. And I think that, maybe that's an interesting area to explore, is like, okay, commitment. Okay, well, the second that one has fallen off the wagon and kind of maybe made decisions against what the inner sense of soul is calling, or has just not been persistent with the practice, like jumping back into the practice. What's your experience been between having some breaks and then going back in?
In terms of commitment, each time I would miss the practice, I would feel annoyed. It was my time. My sister is talking too much right now. And it would happen, especially when I would travel. Everyone has family visiting, traveling, like some stuff going on with work. There's always something that will try to push you away from the practice. Now, it's a very good sign to have that little voice saying, I didn't meditate today. So as I used to catch up in the evening, the things that I had to learn with years is to forgive myself and say, look, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't do it for 2 days because we were traveling and blah, blah, blah. Let me do it now. It's never too late to start back, never too late.
Yeah. And I think that the bolting on to, it's been a week, it's been a month, it's been a year, and then I want to do it again. What I have been an expert at in my life is beating myself up for things that I haven't done, instead of just focusing my energy on maybe just doing the thing. And so it was actually an area where my own self-relationship was, I was chastising myself quite a lot unnecessarily for doing less than what my intellect wanted. And that, that's the danger when the mind gets involved, is that it imposes upon the situation. And then when its rigorous template of how I do this, when I do it, exact minutes and exact experiences that I should be having, when that gets disrupted, it's like, how dare my perfect system that I'm going to rig to get enlightenment is falling apart. And that's almost the antithesis of the soul.
Completely.
But you go too far into the other end of the spectrum, and it's like, it's all good according to the soul. And so you never do anything. And 30 minutes turns into 10 minutes equals 3 mindful breaths, and then you get on with it. And it's like, you actually haven't sat longer than what was required to attain some stabilization of mind and inner connection. And so the balance that I find between structure and freedom or flexibility, like that's the skeleton that doesn't bend back further this way, but the because of the assemblage of joints and tendons, I can have bendy movement, but just not absolutely bendy. I can't bend this because it's a bone. And so this is a dance of structure and the flexible. And I would say that it's in the interior experience that the flexibility comes alive, i.e., sit down without agenda and allow the mind to go where it must and just watch it. That's the flexible component. The structure component might be like a noble intention to sit for the full 30 minutes. And so, you might set your clock where you could see it and then sit for the full duration of the meditation, rather than, allowing the flexible mind, the flexible desire to come in too much into the scaffolding around the meditation. It's like, I'm only going to do 3 minutes today. Why not? Because 3 minutes is better than none. And I'm going to do it lying down, and then you fall asleep, or whatever other sort of flexibility. I'm going to, I'll do it in the afternoon or something. And that never comes unless it's Tuesday. Like if I ever tell myself that I'm going to practice later, it's almost a surefire recipe for nothing eventuating. So, yeah, as that quality of commitment comes alive, the gifts seem to the gifts multiply, and I really do believe that, you know, part of our responsibility as people who have received some sense of purpose and meaning and deeper sense of connection to each other and to life and pretty much everything God, that the responsibility then is to pay that forward through the presence of our being, and also by offering to those people those things that have worked for us. And so your own commitment to the practice will, you know, the thing that you may be called to share as an individual is not necessarily to like go and start an ashram and share meditation, but the little bits of soul-based consciousness that pop up through your day, like the decision maybe to not cut someone off in traffic or scream at someone at the end of the telephone, or whatever the little soul when it pops up in your life, it is actually the most charitable gift to allow that to come through out into the world for other people's benefit. But the source of that soul-based consciousness is the inner connection. And so, you know, our system is a little bit wired upside down, where most people think that I just need to go around doing charitable good deeds, when the reality is, if you get that inner self relationship really humming along quite nicely, the excess flows out with a greater sense of ease, and there isn't the sense of depletion in supporting and caring for others, because your cup is constantly filling up. So, well, there's some thoughts and reflections on commitment. We really thank everybody who's tuned in. We're about to jump into meditation, and yeah, we thank those who are watching in the review. So make sure you subscribe to our very humble and very small YouTube channel. But I'm going to mute you all, and then I will unmute and ding 3 times for the end of the meditation. So we shall see you next week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will have a quiet exit for those who might be in their PJs, ready to kind of nod off.